Welcome to Roman Manor. This lesson will explore subject matter jurisdiction. Specifically, it will cover diversity jurisdiction. You can also check out the law cited via the links in the description below. And with that, let's get to it. A quick preface. If you haven't watched the lesson on subject matter jurisdiction basics, I suggest you do so before proceeding. It will help you put this lesson into perspective as this lesson builds upon that one. That said, let's discuss diversity jurisdiction. This lesson will proceed as follows. We will start by defining diversity jurisdiction and then dissect its constituent parts. We will examine the amount and controversy requirement, take a look at the legal certainty test, and how a plaintiff may aggregate claims. We will then turn to the complete diversity requirement and then briefly examine Citizenship Basics. So how is this concept defined? Black's Law defines diversity jurisdiction as, quote, a federal court's exercise of authority over a case involving parties who are citizens of different states and an amount in controversy greater than a statutory minimum, unquote. Bear in mind, however, that diversity jurisdiction does not apply solely to litigating parties residing in separate U.S. states. Diversity jurisdiction can serve as the basis for subject matter jurisdiction if the suit at issue is between a citizen of a U.S. state and citizens or subjects of a foreign state. But for now, let's proceed by expanding on diversity jurisdiction requirements, namely amount in controversy and complete diversity. 28 U.S.C. Section 1332 sets forth the requirements necessary to sustain a claim under diversity jurisdiction. The statute gets into the nitty-gritty, but its salient points require that the plaintiff's claim meet two requirements. 1. The amount in controversy must exceed $75,000. And 2. All parties on either side of the claim must be diverse from the other side. Under the rules of federal civil procedure, an action begins when it is commenced. Therefore, whether these requirements are fulfilled is determined when the plaintiff files his complaint. The plaintiff must demonstrate that the amount in controversy is stated in good faith and that the parties on either side of the suit are completely diverse. So let's unpack these requirements in detail. Amount in controversy refers to a plaintiff's good faith estimate of the amount owed as a result of the defendant's alleged actions. Black's Law defines the term as, quote, the damages or relief demanded by the injured party in a lawsuit, unquote. 28 U.S.C. Section 1332A provides, quote, the district courts shall have original jurisdiction of all civil actions where the matter in controversy exceeds the sum or value of $75,000, exclusive of interests and costs. This means the plaintiff's claim must exceed $75,000. Another way to state this is, the plaintiff's claim must be at least $75,000.01. As we've touched on, this amount must be stated in good faith and cannot include interest or the cost to bring the suit. But what does good faith mean? It means the plaintiff's claim must be reasonable. The claim cannot be characterized as legally impossible. Black's Law defines good faith as, quote, a state of mind consisting in 1. Honesty in belief or purpose. 2. Faithfulness to one's duty or obligation. 3. Observance of reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing in a given trade or business. Or 4. Absence of intent to defraud or to seek unconscionable advantage. In the context of pleading, it is definition 1 and 4 that are the most relevant. However, if, as litigation proceeds, it turns out that the plaintiff's good faith claim cannot exceed the statutory minimum, this will not necessarily serve to defeat diversity. What if, as a defendant, you believe the plaintiff's complaint could not possibly exceed the amount in controversy threshold? In those instances, the defendant should look to the legal certainty test. In St. Paul Mercury Indemnity Company versus Red Cad Company, the U.S. Supreme Court examined when it is permissible to dismiss a case for its inability to exceed the required amount in controversy. On page 289 of that opinion, the court stated that, quote, it must appear to a legal certainty that the claim is really for less than the jurisdictional amount to justify dismissal. The inability of plaintiff to recover an amount adequate to give the court jurisdiction does not show his bad faith or oust the jurisdiction. Nor does the fact that the complaint discloses the existence of a valid defense to the claim. But if, from the face of the pleadings, it is apparent to a legal certainty that the plaintiff cannot recover the amount claimed, or if from the proofs the court is satisfied to a like certainty that the plaintiff never was entitled to recover that amount and that his claim was therefore colorable for the purpose of conferring jurisdiction, the suit will be dismissed." Unquote. What the viewer should take from this is that in order for a defendant to successfully motion to dismiss a claim because the plaintiff's claim cannot exceed the amount of controversy minimum, the plaintiff must demonstrate to a legal certainty that the plaintiff cannot recover that amount. What if the plaintiff has several claims, none of which will exceed the amount in controversy threshold on their own? Is it possible to combine those claims in order to cross the threshold? Through aggregation, a plaintiff can do just that. Aggregation is the combining of multiple claims to enable the plaintiff to meet the amount in controversy threshold. How this occurs depends on the configuration of the parties to the action. When the case is brought by one plaintiff against one defendant, the plaintiff can aggregate all of the claims he has against that defendant, regardless of whether the claims are related to each other. For example, consider Pete versus David. Pete, a citizen of California, is suing David, a citizen of Arizona, on two claims. One, a breach of contract claim for $60,000, and two, a defamation claim worth $20,000. On their own, neither of these claims crosses the threshold, but because there is one plaintiff suing one defendant, Pete can aggregate the claims, which would then total $80,000, and he can satisfy the amount controversy requirement, permitting him to move forward. When the case is brought by one plaintiff against multiple defendants, whether the plaintiff can aggregate his claims to cross the threshold depends on whether the suit is being brought against the defendants jointly and severally, or if the plaintiff is asserting separate liabilities. If the plaintiff is doing so jointly and severally, then he can aggregate his claims. But if the plaintiff is basing his suit on separate claims against unrelated defendants, then he cannot aggregate those claims. When the case is brought by several plaintiffs against one defendant, those plaintiffs can only aggregate their claims if they are seeking to enforce a single title or right in which they have a common or undivided interest. Now, with the basics of amount and controversy covered, let's turn to the second requirement for diversity jurisdiction: complete diversity. Complete diversity means that no party on the plaintiff's side of the case can have the same state citizenship as any party on the defendant's side of the case, and vice versa. 28 U.S.C. Section 1332A 1 through 4 requires that the controversy at issue be between citizens of different states, citizens of a state and citizens or subjects of a foreign state, citizens of different states in which citizens or subjects of a foreign state are additional parties, or 4, a foreign state, as plaintiff and citizens of a state or different states. In case law, this is sometimes referred to as the Strawbridge Rule. Bear in mind that any new party subsequently joined to the case must also remain diverse. So how is citizenship determined? Hopefully you recall domiciliary from the lesson on personal jurisdiction, but generally citizenship is determined by where the party is domiciled. Natural persons. Determining the citizenship of a natural person is usually easy enough, as we saw with PJ. And individual citizenship is determined where that party is domiciled. Corporations. In the case of a corporation, there are two circumstances that will determine where the corporation is a citizen. These are 1. The state or states where the corporation is incorporated, and 2. The one state it calls its principal place of business, or PPB. For example, consider a corporation incorporated in Wilmington with headquarters in Manhattan. In those circumstances, that corporation would be a citizen of both Delaware and New York State. Limited liability companies. The other entity you're likely to come across is the LLC. In these situations, an LLC's citizenship is determined by the citizenship of its constituent members. As an aside, there is a complete lesson on how to determine citizenship available in this playlist. Check it out if you want more information on this important topic. Okay, this lesson examined diversity jurisdiction before dissecting its constituent parts. We then examined the amount and controversy requirement, including the legal certainty test, and how a plaintiff may aggregate his claims. Lastly, we examined the complete diversity requirement and citizenship basics. That's it for this lesson. If you found it helpful, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments below and check back often for more content. As always, thank you for visiting Roman Manor and have a lovely day. That's it for this lesson. If you found it helpful, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments below and check back often for more content. As always, thank you for visiting Roman Manor and have a lovely day.